Arrow Season 2, Episode 12, titled Tremors. Now, after Roy, basically revealed that he had powers and, Oliver found out about it, he offered to teach Roy. In this episode, we really get to see his training, and, we see some of the parallels between Roy and Oliver when he was first training with Shadow and, slapping the water and stuff like that. And I thought it was a really good episode, going through Roy basically having to learn how to, be superhuman. And, one of the big problems with it is, he has rage that was, way before he was infected with the Mirakuru. He was an angry person. And you see that, when he was first introduced in the show, he was a criminal, pretty much. He was a thief, and he was an angry guy. And he was, mad at the world. And then the Mirakuru doesn't exactly help that. But, it kind of caught him, in a sense, it caught him at the right time, because after Oliver saved him, that's when Roy wanted to be a vigilante, and he wanted to, help save people. So he kind of took him back a few steps, but, with Oliver helping him out, hopefully he'll be able to control it, and, he'll be Red Arrow, or, hopefully Red Arrow, because if he's Arsenal, it might be a little problem. But, that was a great episode. The action was pretty good. Roy losing it, like, pretty much every time was a really good theme they kept throughout the episode, where, it kind of forced Oliver to think back on Slade and how he wished he told him the truth, or told him, something that was a big enough secret to say, like, hey, I'm telling you this because I need you to realize I'm trying to, help all of us. I'm trying to help you control this crazy thing that, is kind of infected your body now. And, he flat out tells everyone in this episode what happened with Slade, which I thought was really cool. And of course, we all as the viewers already know, but it was kind of cool to see him actually tell everyone, because obviously one of the big things that Oliver does is keep secrets from, what happened on the island. So it was cool that he, him dealing with the situation with Roy, kind of forced him to tell everyone the story about Slade and how he couldn't exactly help Slade, and he wished he told him, exactly what happened with Shadow, because when Slade found out, from Ivo, most likely, he kind of lost it, and then, they had to fight. But I thought it was great, and I love how it ended, where, Roy was losing it again, on Bronze Tiger, who I was glad to see Bronze Tiger come back, because Michael Jai White, he's a good actor. Also, I feel like he didn't, he had like the one episode, he wasn't really in it too much. But, he came back in this one. They had a cool fight in the garage. They had a bit of a fight towards the end, but mostly he just stabbed Oliver in the back, and then Roy like pushed him and started beating his face in. But it was cool to see him come back. Also, the ending with him was really amazing, because they put in, sort of the initiation of the Suicide Squad, which I didn't know much about until I saw a video, I want to say like 1 or 2 weeks ago, where they mentioned Deathstroke, or not Deathstroke, but Bullseye being in the Suicide Squad. So they are putting that in the series, which has me really excited, because that's going to bring in a couple of villains that we haven't seen yet. So it'll be cool to see them come in, and just to have a Suicide Squad, them in the series would be cool, just to see multiple villains in one episode, or, that might lead to multiple heroes in one episode. So who knows, they could bring in Flash after, he's kind of built up some of his abilities. But it was cool to see him in there. It was cool to get the introduction of that. And, Roy was able to finally control himself when Oliver revealed that he is Green Arrow, or at least the Arrow. And, he really pushed him. He said, I know about I know that you love my sister, because I've seen it. And I need you to focus on that, because if you don't stop this machine, she's going to die, and so are a lot of other people. And I love the fact that, what they did in this episode was they kind of brought in Tommy Merlin again, the entire family. And, they had the prototype version of the machine that destroyed the Glades, and I thought that was a really cool sort of nod to, Merlin, and just them being in the house and stuff like that. And it was really interesting that they had that prototype, but it's destroyed now, so, that won't really carry on where they have to worry about that anymore. But it was a really cool, problem for them to deal with in this episode. I thought, never would have expected that to be the device, but it was really cool to see that, sort of come in, and they have this huge issue that, there's no fighting against it, and it forced Oliver to show Roy, his true identity. So Roy's officially a part of the team. He knows the secret, and now that they're working together, we'll really get to see Roy. We might not see him out in the field too much because he's still gonna have to, control his anger. But once we get through the training, which might be, admittedly, it might be a couple of months, we might get to see him out in the field in maybe like the last 3 or 4 episodes or something like that. But I'm really excited for it because it'll be great to see, and him in actual control, and he might even get his own suit if he's not just wearing his red hoodie. But it'll be pretty sweet to see that happen. One of the other things that was really interesting is the fact that Moira is going to be running, against Sebastian Blood. I'm curious to see that just because, who knows what'll come out of that. And mostly the big thing is Thea, being Merlin's daughter, that could actually come out. And I feel like it will, even though they're obviously going to try to hide it. I feel like this is a good way to bring that back. And he is technically still alive, but who knows if he'll really come back, with the League of Assassins and everything. So he may or may not come back once that's actually, revealed to everyone. But I'm pretty sure it'll get revealed, and I'm excited to see how that affects, all the characters, because it definitely will. And then we have sort of the third story in this episode, which is Laurel kind of just going off the deep end again. I think this is like the third time or something like that. And, she's getting drunk, and her dad took her to AA, which when I was watching that scene before he actually opened the door, I was like, there's no way he did that. And, he opens the door and it's an AA meeting, and, she freaks out and she leaves him, of course. And she goes and gets drunk, and she has all these problems coming in, but she doesn't really know how to handle it. And she's just drinking. She's, substance abuse. That's what it is. And it's a real downward spiral, like I said, for the third time. But in the end of this episode, her sister does come back. And I think her sister actually being alive will be a huge boost for her character, and it'll bring her out of this depression, even though she still isn't going to have a job because she's been disbarred because of the substance abuse. Her sister's alive. I think that's going to be a huge moment in the series that, it'll pretty much affect the rest of the series because she's going to know her sister's alive. And I didn't get to see much of the preview because my stupid DVR likes to cut off, like, in between the previews. But I do know the League of Assassins comes back, and, Ra's al Ghul's daughter is in it, so that should be cool. And she uses an arrow, too, which just kind of makes it a little exciting. But I'm definitely excited for next week's episode. But this one was really good with the introduction of, so many different elements. We got the Suicide Squad kind of mentioned, Moira running for mayor. Like I said, it's a political thing, which I'm not too into, but considering it's inside of the show Arrow, they're going to make it interesting. And, Roy obviously learning Oliver's secret, which was a really, really great scene. Like, Oliver didn't know what to do, so he had to take his mask off and, talk to him heart to heart. So I thought that was a really good scene. But love the episode for what they revealed, and I cannot wait for next week because they're bringing in the League of Assassins, and I definitely am excited to see what happens between, Laurel and her sister, because I think it's going to be a really good dynamic, and especially since her dad already knows that she's alive, Laurel's going to have to talk to him, and there's just going to be so much family stuff that I think is going to be really well done. And I'm also excited to see the flashback scenes, because in this, Oliver and Sarah, that's her name, Oliver and Sarah do find Slade. So, at the very end of that, Oliver says, we're going to take back the freighter. So I'm excited to see if next week is the episode where Slade, quote unquote, dies in, the past. So I'm really, really excited to see next week's episode for all the crazy action and the really good story. But for this one, loved it. And you guys definitely let me know what you thought. Favorite parts, least favorite parts. And I guess this is really more of a specific question. If you do know the Suicide Squad, definitely tell me, how do you want the other characters to be introduced? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.